If you enjoy listening to adventure stories, then you should visit thedihedral.com. You will find stories from other members of the community and read about climbing, life, and the outdoors. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's connect and climb on!
Climb on! Hello, everyone. This is Carrot. Welcome to another episode of the Dihedral podcast. I'm lucky to be joined today by someone who is entirely stoked on climbing to the point where she recently made a life-changing move to be further immersed in the rocks. She's an entrepreneur, climber, and expert on all things Red River Gorge. Having sent all types of grades all around the world, I'm so happy to be joined in our little corner of the globe by rock climber Lucia Li. Lucia, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully it's a fun and engaging talk. If it's not, it'll definitely not be because of what you've gone through. It'll be because of my questions. So I'll try to do my best.
Okay, so, that sounds great.
I really want to spend some time talking about risk and change kind of as a theme of the discussion. But before any of that, I'm hoping you'd be okay sharing a little about your origin story and let us know how you got into climbing.
Okay, well, it all started in an even further remote area of the Upper Peninsula. I guess before that, I like to climb trees, and there's even like a photo of me as I was probably 7 years old in a dress climbing a swing set. And I just loved climbing stuff. I just didn't know rock climbing existed anywhere. I didn't know that was an actual thing. And I'm sure that's the story of most people as well. And then once I went to college, my friend who I would climb trees with, we would just go to parks and find these giant sturdy trees and be like, let's climb them. And we'd climb to the very top. And now thinking back, I'm like, what was I doing? I don't think I could free solo a tree.
Right, you're free soloing trees at that point, for sure.
Like it was like 20 feet tall or 30 feet tall. And I probably looked like a maniac, but she was like, you should try rock climbing. And I just, I checked it out. It was kind of expensive. And, I did climb a little bit, but I didn't really get into climbing until I got a internship with a company in Minneapolis. And there was a really great rock climbing community there. And that's when I started climbing, just top roping. And then I took my first lead class. But lead climbing was still very scary at the time. So that, I believe, was in, 2014.
Okay.
Was around when I started climbing. And I went to a university called Michigan Tech. It's in the Upper Peninsula, as remote as you can be, as far as you can be from the Detroit area and still be in Michigan. So it's a peninsula on the Upper Peninsula. And there was a rock climbing club there. So after that internship, I joined the club and I would climb there. And that's where I kind of learned more things outdoor climbing. The team or the club outdoor rock climbing. I started seeing someone who was one of like the officers in the club, and we went down to the Red River Gorge. And that's when I did my first lead climb, and it was like a 5'9", and I was pretty stoked on that. But I was so scared of sport climbing for probably like 6 years into my climbing.
Wow,
yeah. I would do it, but I would be shaking and scared.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Devil's Lake, where I got to climb, or I moved to somewhere in Wisconsin, like Appleton, Wisconsin, just another remote place. And then I learned how to trad climb at Devil's Lake, which I'm not sure if you know anything about Devil's Lake climbing, but it's not the place you want to learn how to trad climb.
All right.
It's like all passive gear, really slippery rock. So I lived in Wisconsin because I got my first job out of college. It was an engineering job at a company called Georgia Pacific that makes like paper products. But I was pretty stoked to have a outdoor climbing area nearby. And anyway, back to the climbing. It was scary trad. Like everything is extremely sandbagged there. Like I was happy to even climb a 5'6" and not die. Like that's how I felt. Everything, like you couldn't place cams. they just slid out of the rock. It's basically glass.
Unreal.
So you would climb with nuts, all passive gear. I did not know how amazing Cam was until I went to Red Rocks, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, all our racks were just racks of passive gear, all nuts. I actually never placed a hex before. And cleaning that stuff was terrible because you're like jamming these nuts into the cracks and just yanking on it, really hoping that they wouldn't blow on you.
Yeah.
And then so for the person cleaning it, they had to top rope while taking a nut tool and just hammering that nut tool on them.
Yeah. You're spending all your energy cleaning gear at that point.
Yeah. So I was probably primarily top roping, but I got a couple leads in at that point. So I moved to Wisconsin in 2016, and that's when I got into some trad. Wisconsin has some sport crags, but it's primarily trad and top rope.
Okay.
So. And I still didn't have a climbing gym yet, so I still wasn't very comfortable with sport climbing. And then, there were just a lot of series of events that happened during this time that forced me to move back to Michigan. Some of them being that, my last year of college, my parents' house burned down.
Oh my God.
While we were on vacation. So it's total loss. It was a 2-year project to rebuild, move into that house. So, and I lived in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, at this corporate job that I really thought oh, this is a great stepping stone. They called it the Innovation Center. I'm a product manager. And that was just a really hard job to get out of college. So I was I'm doing this thing to really develop my next steps of being an engineer and, starry-eyed, I'm going to change the world kind of thing with my engineering career, while my family was really struggling in Michigan. And then my dad, he is also an entrepreneur, which is probably where I get it from. He picked up a series of, I guess, businesses that he just took on too much for his plate. So my parents just really needed my help at that time, and with both the house. So I originally was okay, I'm gonna just take a 1-year break from my corporate job. And that's where my boyfriend at the time was living, was in Wisconsin as well. So I'm okay, I'm gonna take a job, take a 1-month break, move back to Michigan, and that's it, and then I'll be back. I talked to my manager. They're as long as you just clean up your personal crap for that 1 month, we'll give you an unpaid leave, go home and come back. And I want your head to be clear of that. All of this comes back to my drive for climbing. So it was a lot of unexpected stuff. So I go home and my dad has all this mess going on with his businesses. He hired in this president that was doing really bad stuff to his company. And then, I'm trying to help with this house. We have a really bad contractor that's working on the house. They're really terrible. They were just really hard to work with. There's a lot of different stuff going on. And literally I was getting ready to return back to work. And literally the day before I was going to get in my car and drive back, I get a terrible call from my mom's cell phone. And it was a guy on the other side. And he's something bad happened to your mom. And I was oh no, this is not good. Oh my
God, what?
Turned out she was, my mom also had her own business, or has her own business. So I guess I come from a family of entrepreneurs, but one of her business at the time was buying plastics here and connecting it with a buyer in China. So one thing that she had to do was watch people load the plastics into the container, take pictures of the plastic for logistics reasons, and then the container gets shipped to China. She already has a buyer. She sends all the pictures to customs and the buyer. But the thing was, my mom is also not a very careful person, and she was in the container while it was getting loaded with pallets of plastic, and the guy driving the forklift literally squashed her, pinned her against a wall, and then dragged her body in there. And I was she's dead. My mom's dead.
What?
Like, he's like, he told me, like, your mom's in the hospital. She got hit by a forklift. You need to go to the hospital right now. And at that time, like, I had no idea what's going on. The only thing I knew I had to do was like quit my job. I was okay, like, call my manager, and I was like, I'm not coming back. My mom's in the hospital.
Yeah.
So then my manager, like, she was kind of brief about it. She was like, okay, like, I'm sure she was kind of fed up with me too, like, having to take that month off. So then I decided to stay home instead of returning to Wisconsin. Like, I left my boyfriend. I mean, we were doing long distance. I left my engineering job that I thought like had a lot of promise. And then I left my apartment there, and I just like stayed in Michigan. My mom was in the ICU for like a month. I had to like continue to handle like so much random crap, like the house building, helping my dad with these businesses. Like, he literally had like 10 different businesses I had to like help him with.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh my God. So like literally the only thing that kept me sane was rock climbing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna, start going to the gym. And then my friend connected me with a friend. He was like, my brother rock climbs, you should like link up with him. And then I also had like a college friend in the area. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna climb. And then I was just top roping a bunch and bouldering. And then I started sport climbing, and it was just like the thing that took my mind off of all the chaos going around, because my mom was like in the ICU for like a month, and with the health, and we were staying in like this temp housing at the time. Like, there's so much other stuff that was going on that's like beyond what I'm saying. It's just like, I'm just not going to clutter your podcast with all the crap that was going on.
Unbelievable.
In the same time, like, my sister's friend was like living with us, and her mom, there was like all this stuff going on with her, like her and her mom got in a fight, and then someone called Wolf, and like they had to get like a restraining order, so she had to stay on my place. It was like a complete mess. There was like all these people staying in this tiny little house while we were waiting for a house to get built, and we didn't even know if our house was going to get built on time. So at that point I was like, okay, well, like, I don't know what's going on with my life. I definitely need a lot of therapy. So I like found a therapist. And then I also found a personal trainer, like, just for working out. And like, I told him, he's like, what do you want to do? He's like, I usually work with people that are out of shape, but like, you seem pretty fit. And I was like, I just want to get strong rock climbing. I was like, I'm going to get strong rock climbing. Like,
that's awesome.
So like, in a time when I felt like my life was so out of control, the only thing I felt in control of was like rock climbing, like my progress rock climbing. And then I don't know if you wanted to go over that quote that I posted.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take some steps to get there. So you're at Michigan Tech, which is way in the Upper Peninsula. What kind of climbing are you doing there? Is it just bouldering? It's like, do they have a
top
gym?
Roping? Okay, that's a good question. So we had a wall that was made of plywood, totally homemade. The height of like your typical college gym, like track field gym, like basketball court. So about probably like 2.5 stories tall. Literally 3 top ropes. One was vert, one had a bulge, and one had a roof. So actually that roof was pretty awesome. It was like a 12-foot roof.
My God.
What I would imagine you would see at like that place in Chattanooga with the roof climbing. I've never been to Chattanooga, but so I really enjoyed that roof climbing, and I think it actually helped me later in my life climbing in the Red.
That's sweet. I want to see pictures of that. That sounds awesome.
I don't know if they like I think they might have changed the pitch of the roof. Like they might have
Okay.
like added something because the roof was a little intense. Like you had to climb up again, only 3 ropes there. Like you only
Yeah.
have a limited amount of climbs. Like every semester they would set a beginner, intermediate, and advanced route. The beginner would be probably like a 5-9 route. The
Okay.
intermediate could range between like a 5-9 to, I guess, 5-10 to like 5-11, like hard 11. And then the advanced route would be like 5-12 plus. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like it was like usually like the really good climbers that set that, like the ones that were just bored, came to Michigan Tech. They were probably part of a climbing team and then came here and was like, okay, let's like put on the hardest thing I can set. And we
Yeah, for sure.
no one would ever be able to climb those, but we would try because you had so in total you had 9 routes that you could climb, and throughout the semester, like maybe someone would add like 1 or 2 routes, but like it wasn't that big. It was literally again 3 ropes. The roof was really cool because you would climb and then there would be like a redirectional draw that you would have to like unclip in the beginning of the roof. So if you don't make it like past the halfway of the point of the roof, you would take like the biggest rope swing ever out of the roof.
And you're not getting back on at that point. You're just lower me.
Yeah. So it was a lot of that because 9 months out of the year was probably snowing up there.
Yeah.
So I guess we did like a lot of ice climbing there, but not a lot of outdoor rock climbing. Like there is a really good outdoor crag there, and I did spend the summer up there. It's called Silver Mountain. That's really good. And my friend, I became friends with like the developer there, Paul Pepin, and it's amazing climbing, like super great. But again, like there's probably like 30 routes total there, so it wasn't that much climbing, and I was also scared shitless at the time. Like I couldn't really climb anything above a 5-10 on lead. Like
that was still like the early days of your climbing. So off to Wisconsin, back to Michigan. Your mom gets run over by a forklift. And I just want to like come back to that story real quickly. Is your mom's okay? I'm hoping.
My mom, it's actually super impressive. She's like the smallest person ever. Like I'm a small person. She's tiny. She probably weighs like 80 pounds, and she's like a vegan and she's stubborn, so she like powered through it. The people at the ICU were like, wow, I have never seen someone recover this fast. Like she broke both her collarbones, every single rib bone, and like fractured her pelvis.
That's crazy.
And then like even after like a month in the ICU, she was like in the bed, like she was bedbound for like 3 months.
All right, so she gets out of the ICU. She's made a full recovery, right? Okay, good.
Okay, so like so this is how crazy it is. So one of the businesses that were just kind of crazy that my dad got into was like a massage place, and there was like this guy that he knew that he got connected with, and he's like, I want to start this massage place, and like I just want you to invest in. My dad's like, cool, like I'm not gonna do a thing, like you do all the work. So they signed this 5-year commercial lease. That guy dips out. So then like that was one of the projects my dad wanted me to help with. I've never run a business before, so I just I do a terrible job. Like I tried to bring in friends.
You're an engineer, right?
It was terrible. So like after maybe 2 years into it, so like I guess this is like probably 2 years since my mom got hit. Like my mom actually, she decides to go to massage therapy school and take over the business. So like this is someone who like, you know, broke every single bone in her upper half. During that time also, like she breaks her foot too, because she's again extremely not careful of a person, and like my sister accidentally ran over her foot.
Oh my God, your poor mom.
I know, it's terrible. But like, you know, as a massage therapist, you're always on your feet, you're always using your body. She does that, she runs it, like
that's amazing.
It's crazy. Like
so,
she is my inspiration.
They got back into the house too, right? Like eventually the house was completed.
Yeah, eventually the house was completed, and like we're all, yeah, the house is done. Everything's done. That part of the chat that was decently smooth relative to the rest of my life.
All right.
Other than like the clothes, like the house builder, they sucked, but
yeah,
you know, whatever. Like
it worked out.
Yeah, it worked.
And so so this is in like the lower peninsula of Michigan?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So it's the in like the suburbs of Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're back.
Yep. So I'm back home helping my dad with his businesses, you know, first trying to do the spa. That was like a really crazy learning experience. During that time, I had to go back to Wisconsin to pack up my stuff. So I was like,
right,
okay,
of
I'm gonna stop by my workplace and everything. And at that time, like, you know, this was probably, I mean, I had been home for like 2 months, and yeah, because my lease ended, like I still had a couple months on my lease, and then I went back and packed up all my stuff in a van and came back. And I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. Like, I made a decision, you know, at that point when I called my manager to quit, I made a decision, you know, clearly. I just didn't know like if like what implications it was going to have on my life. And I guess the thing was like that was a decision that kind of didn't really feel like I had control over. I was like, okay, this is what I had to do.
Yeah.
But you know, leaving your first job in general, like quitting a job is hard, and like leaving a first job is hard, and then leaving your field to like work on a business is like the hardest thing, because small businesses aren't easy. Like, and people are always like, oh yeah, glamorous business owner, entrepreneur. It's not glamorous. It's a lot of work and a lot of like being on, like learning every single thing, everything single aspect about a business. So like for me, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I made it. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm throwing away my engineering career.
Right.
Like all my friends are engineers, and I'm like, what are they gonna think of me? And like, so when I ran into my manager, like my mentor at my company, like I was like picking up my box. It was like stereotypical, go in, HR gives you your box, you're not allowed to enter the building.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like text my manager, I'm like, hey, come say bye to me.
Oh my God.
And then she like comes out and she's just like, all right, goodbye. Like, so yeah, I'm just like, I'm in crisis right now. Like,
you lived a
my
movie.
life is blowing up.
Yeah.
Like,
this is crazy.
Yeah. Like, tell me that like it's gonna be okay. Like, tell me
something.
I should stay. Like, tell me something. Like, tell me what I should do. Because everything up to this point was governed by like, I really like having mentors. Like, I really like having someone to tell me what to do. Yeah. And the fact that she was just like, all right, you made your decision. Goodbye. Like, I was like, what is going on? And then I was just like, am I like, she could tell that I was like nervous. And that's when she was just like, you made a decision, own it, like turn around, own it, you're gonna do fine. And that's when I was like, that was like a switch that became like me, from me always like looking up to people, to me being like, okay, I need to take control over my own life and start taking ownership over my life. And like, I need to move forward. Like, I need to start, I can't like stop. Like, life keeps going. And like, you're either gonna drift back or you're gonna like spearhead your life. And like, that was like ultimately the biggest turning point in my life, when I was like, okay, now I need to go find a therapist, find a personal trainer, like learn how to run a business, and like be a sane person. I guess make some friends, probably. I don't know.
And at the center of all of this is rock climbing, like allowing your brain to like focus on something.
Yeah. So then like, I mean, it was like pretty difficult for me to really get into rock climbing. It wasn't difficult for me to get into bouldering, but it was like really difficult for me to find climbing partners in the area. Like, I did have like that climbing partner from college, but he ended up moving away to Bozeman after a couple months, so that sucked.
Typical.
So I was literally like going around the bouldering area, trying to like find rope climbing partners. And like now looking back, it's kind of hilarious because like I have a lot of bouldering friends, they hate rope climbing. So I'm this person going and like bouldering. It was like good I was bouldering so much because like I truly think bouldering just makes, like, I've taken strong boulders and like turned them into like strong rope climbers.
Good, we need that.
I haven't like done the opposite. I mean, I haven't been like recruiting rope climbers to go bouldering.
Let's go the other way.
Yeah. But like I was just like literally so desperate for any rope climbing partner. I would like go up to random people and be like, yeah, you know, my grade, like, you want to rope climb? And like, you know, it's kind of funny because like people were probably like, oh, this chick is trying to like get me to rope climb. You know, that never happens. It's like probably usually the other way around. So I got into some awkward situations like that. Like one of my climbing partners, like that was like the brother of a friend. He was a brother of my sister's friend. So he was my sister's like, oh, my brother rock climbs, you should go like get him to climb with you. So like, I'm like, how does he look like? He's like, he looks like me. So I found like the guy who looked like him, like stalked him down. I literally kind of felt like a stalk.
That's great.
So I like wave him down. I'm like, hey, let's go. And then I'm like, have you heard of the Red? Do you want to come to the Red with me? Because like at this point, like majority of my climbing time, like by now it's probably like 2018. So I started climbing in like 2014. So 4 years have gone past. I've probably been climbing for 8 years. So for like the first 4 years, like I spent a lot of time outdoor climbing. Like I didn't have a gym near me. I wasn't like a really good sport climber either, but I just spent a lot of time outdoor climbing because I didn't have a gym. So I like rope him into I'm like, let's go to the Red. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And then I was just like, cool. He's like, I just went to the Red last week with my brother, but we could go to the Red this week. And then he also mentioned something like about him like never seeing his girlfriend or anything. So then I was like, well, maybe you should talk to your girlfriend about that. He's like, no, that's cool. Let's go to the Red. And like we were just friends. Like we've always just been friends.
Yeah, I love the ambition of this guy though. Like, sure, let's go.
We did go to the Red. He didn't tell his girlfriend. So then I start getting these like Instagram messages from this guy's girlfriend, like bitching me out, like, how dare you go on the solo trip to the Red? I was just like, I just want a climbing friend. And like, mind you, I still have like my long distance boyfriend that's in Wisconsin too. So I didn't
back in Wisconsin. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought we dropped him when you moved back. He's still in the picture. All right.
Sure. Like, he just didn't really come visit me that much, which is kind of why things ended up going different ways.
Yeah, totally.
But like, I was like at that time, like I've always been kind of a tomboy. I've always had a lot of guy friends. I never thought about how hard it was to be like a lone wolf woman hitting up all these guys to go climbing.
Yeah.
And obviously it causes some complications now that like looking back, but like, so then like we have a great trip. I'm like getting thrashed on these 5'11s, taking giant whips, getting like the shit scared out of me. I was so scared, like climbing 5'11s then. And but I was also like, there's something empowering to climbing with a bunch of like people you've never climbed with. One is like, you don't want to act scared all the time. Like you want to be like excited. You want to like show them, especially if you're trying to find new climbing partners, you want to show them how enthusiastic you are. So I was like, okay, I'll try this, even though I'm super scared and like I fall. And I think that was like number one. One of the best things I did for climbing was like climbing with so many different climbing partners and being out of my comfort zone. Because when I was like climbing with my boyfriend at that time, like he was a very strong climber. Like, you know, he was like climbing 12s, I was climbing 10s, and like he was always like my safety net. Like if I couldn't get up a climb, he would. You know, if I was too scared to climb, I could always fail. So like without him in the picture, climbing, I was like, okay, well, someone has to get to the top of that climb, like even if we're whipping here.
We got gear to clean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I didn't know that there was such thing as stick clipping your way up or down.
Yeah.
I don't even think I owned a stick clip. Like I had
Yeah.
I didn't know all those fancy techniques that you can like, save
Totally.
your gear. So yeah, then I come back, he obviously, his girlfriend gets mad at him, then I lose my only climbing partner. Well, I guess
sad.
that was my second, because my first climbing partner moved away. So then I was like, okay, back to the hunt, back to finding another climbing partner.
Yeah.
So I would boulder and just find climbing partners, and that's like honestly how I got strong. Like,
yeah,
just climbing with all these different people and like seeing how they climbed and how stoked they were, like showed me that I should like, be more brave and climb harder. And it was like, that was the only time I got to be social, because other than that, I was like pulling like 12-hour days at least. And then just like, I always had to, like, if anyone asked me if I wanted to climb, I was like, yes, because I was scared that if I said no, they wouldn't invite me to climb again. So I would like, I was like a yes girl, I guess. And then, yeah.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And then, so eventually, like, my boyfriend at the time moves out to Utah, and then like things are clearly not working out because like no one is like, I don't really have time to visit him. I'm traveling a lot for work. Like I'm going from like trade show to trade show and stuff like that, because like I'm like handling a lot of the sales at this technology company that I am currently running now. But at that time I was like getting onboarded onto it. And then so I'm traveling all the time, and when I'm home I want to like climb and I want to meet people. I want to find climbing partners. So like I really went out there. He really came out to me because he was like probably in a similar situation where he was trying to like establish his life out in Salt Lake City. And then so things just kind of ended, but like we were like best friends, and I really looked up to him as a climber. And since like, he taught me everything I knew about climbing, I just felt kind of like lost when everything ended. But then like I met friends, but then I also met like the person I'm currently dating, and he kind of like, at the time he was a weaker climber than me, but he really believed in me. And he was like I was taking a trip out to Red Rocks with some friends. I think he had a broken leg, and he like literally surprised me with a trad rack, and that he like pieced together from Mountain Project.
That's
like,
so awesome.
He was like, I was gonna say this for your birthday, but like since you're going to Red Rocks, like I've been slowly piecing this together. And like, like that was the first time anyone was like gave me the confidence of like, you can do it. Like you are strong enough to like be independent and really push yourself climbing. So that was really motivating. And then I had another secret goal, which I've never said publicly, but my goal was to climb a 513 before my ex-boyfriend did. I'm not sure if I succeeded. He may have, but he never posted anything about it until.
Let's just say that you did it. Exactly. Like from my perspective,
internally, I think I won.
No, if somebody writes a movie about your life, totally you won for sure. And like, so I think listening, you'll get there. Like he'll keep working. He'll make it.
So yeah. I did. I think I ended up climbing a 513 first, but at that point, like it was so like I was already like we were all doing our own things. It didn't really matter. It was more like a little thing inside my head, like ha ha ha. But my friends, my girlfriends, and I talk about it that breakups actually make you a better climber, because a lot of my girlfriends, like after they have had breakups, like regardless if you broke up with someone and someone broke up with you, like all of them have always like hit the training wall and started like found their bravery. And like
I could not agree more. It's so funny. Like I'll see somebody who I've known for a while to start climbing really hard at the gym, and I'll just be like, They broke up with somebody. Like that's what happens. Like, if you want to get better at climbing, break up with whoever. Don't actually do that. But yeah, I agree
know.
with you 100%.
I know. Unless they're like engaged or something, like you gotta keep your mouth shut. You know, you don't want to be that person that wrecks someone's marriage. But
So,
if they're just girlfriend boyfriend, it's good. You know,
it's fine. Yeah, exactly. It's helpful. So you're getting super strong. Things are starting to settle down with your life. You're crushing things in the Detroit area climbing scene, driving out to the Red all the time. And you get another job. Is that true? Like another?
So actually, so I'm still with the same job. It's just like I know what I'm doing more so now.
Cool.
And I'm like straight up just running the company with myself.
Yeah, look at you.
So like it was a really interesting time because like, so you know, I moved back 2017 going into 2018 to Michigan. And then, you know, I get that personal trainer and I actually see a lot of gains. Just like there was like a before after picture of 6 months. I'm like, I'm feeling super confident, you know. At this point I'm like leading 11 minuses and stuff like that. And then as soon as I start like picking up like all these different climbing partners, I'm seeing like myself starting to work on 11 pluses and feeling confident. And I always made it a point to like take a whipper every session. Just like,
good for you.
Like if I didn't take a whipper that session, I didn't try hard enough. Like,
that's awesome.
Even if I didn't want to. So it kind of like normalized the feeling of falling. Like I used to be like so scared, you know, shaking.
Yeah, scary.
And then, but I started like, when I was climbing 10s, there was this defining point, and I'll always remember it. It was when I was still in Wisconsin, actually. And I was climbing this 10 plus, and then like, I'm like passing the bolt, my arms are getting numb, and then I'm like shaking, and then I hit a jug, and I like was able to like relax a little bit. My arms are still numb though. I'm like death gripping. And then like I clip, still numb, keep climbing, get to the anchors, clip the anchors. And I think that was like a turning point where I'm like, whoa, you could still climb when you can't feel your arms.
What a great experience. Yeah.
And then there was another experience where I took my first whipper indoors and I didn't die. Obviously.
Yeah, that's good. That's a bonus.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm still alive. So I think because of that whipper, I was like, okay, now every time I climb, I'm gonna like take whips. So yeah, then and then getting like a gym membership after I found like that second climbing partner, the one who girlfriend made him not climb with me anymore. Like he convinced me at that time to get a gym membership, and that made a huge improvement. Like I live like 30 minutes from the gym, so it's not convenient to go to the gym. And you know, gym memberships are expensive. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do this. So then I started going to the gym a bunch, doing that. But all this time, like I was traveling a lot. So then you know, I started meeting friends slowly, and then like I think in like end of 2019, like people from the gym actually started inviting me to the Red. It wasn't like, it was no longer like, I was probably like bothering them a bunch, but I was traveling a lot for work. So like I come back, I take this like trip to China, half visiting family, half for work. And then I like literally get a text message like as I'm flying home from China being like, we're going to the Red next weekend. You want to join? And I was yes, I'm coming.
That's
so
awesome.
Then I like, these are like people that I'm like pretty strong at the gym. Like they were like definitely stronger than me. I go with them to the Red, and you know, we start hopping on 12s. Like no one sends it, but like I was like, okay, this is like kind of fun. And then I go with this other person like in 2 weeks after that was like a little bit stronger. or I don't know. Yeah, he's stronger. He's definitely more experienced, and he was definitely like more connected with the community in the Red.
Okay.
And he knows that he was the start to like me climbing harder, because like before then, like every time I got on a climb outdoors, I would climb it once, and like, you know, I would never get back on a route. It was like too scary. If I didn't send it, it was too scary or too much work. Whereas like or your mindset's like, what would be different if I hopped on it for the second time?
Right. Yeah, good point.
But he introduced me to the project mentality. So I get on this 11, I think it's in like 11A or 11B. I go to the you know, he's projecting 12s, and I get on it, I fall, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of scary, you know. And then I belay him on his project. He's like, you gonna get back on that? And I was like, hey, no. I get what? He's like, just go up there, get into the Waco, and rest as long as you want. And when you feel good, get to the chains. And then like I was like, okay. So I get there, I go to Waco, I probably sit in there for like 5 minutes. I'm like, I think I'm ready. And I'm like trying to imagine like all the moves to get to the chains. And then I do it. And then I send it. And I'm like,
so cool.
I was like, holy shit. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, this is like literally the first 11 I've ever sent in my life outdoors.
That's so neat. Yeah.
And then like later, I think on that trip, like we meet up with his friends, and like, you know, I fall on this like 11. It's called Hip to the Jive. It's like a popular climb at the chocolate factory. This girl that was like projecting pure imagination was like belaying me on it, and I was like falling and scared shitless. And then we like, you know, he flashes it, it's his warm up, and then we go and meet up with his friends, and like they're projecting like this 12C called Dainty Butterfly. And like they have the draws up, and I'm like, well, I'm like too scared to climb anything else. I don't want to put up draws anywhere, and I don't want to like, you know, find a route, because I like don't really know that much about outdoor climbing yet. And you know, they're all waiting, you know, they climb once, you wait an hour, you know, that's like generally how we all project in the Red. And like everyone's just sitting around like, can I hop on the route? Like I just want to climb something.
Good for you.
And then maybe someone suggested it, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't like the warrior being like,
I like that part.
Whatever. I get on to climb something. And like his friend asks me, and he's also like, you know, a very strong climber in the Red. He asked me like, oh, have you ever hopped on a 12 before? I'm like, I don't think I've ever sent an 11. So this actually must have been the day previous to me sending that 11. Okay. I was like, I've actually never sent an 11 before. And he's like, all right, good luck.
Yeah.
So then I started climbing it, and like I've been climbing at this point for like 5 years. So like I climb pretty well. Like I could top rope 12s and such. Yeah. And like he's like, whoa, you look really good on that. You know, I'm like falling, you know, tried to get to the crux, falling, tried to piece together pieces of beta, still falling. You know, and like they were like, holy crap, like you should be climbing 12s. I'm like, nice. Really? So cool. I'm like, I don't know, kind of scary. I can't get to the anchors. And then it was actually funny because I like, you know, the guy that was asking me if I've ever climbed 12 before, and like saying like, oh, you should be climbing 12. Like he was about to take off, and I was like, no, you should give that route another shot. Like you were so close, because he was falling at the anchors. And then I gave him like this piece of bait. I'm like, there's like a holdout right, you should try. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. And then like he actually used my beta and sent it.
Yeah, he did. That's great.
I was like, whoa. And then the next, I think I went back to Michigan. So like us Michiganders, we're like weekend warrior. You know, like we're taking that 6-hour drive to the Red like every other weekend. It's slightly miserable, but also worth it, because you know, it's all about the outdoor climbing for me. And then 2 weeks after that, I set my first 12A.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Man, that's so good.
Yeah, and I was like, holy shit. And then and then 2 weeks after that, I go back to the Red, and I run into that guy that was, you know, that I helped, gave him beta on for that 12. Yeah. And he's like, we're like, oh, I met you that weekend. I met you too. And then like, you know, I sent my second 12A, like while he
That's
was
so
projecting like
cool.
his 13B. And like, you know, it was just super cool, like linking up with him and like him giving me tips on like how to project and like
Yeah.
just having the confidence. I think it's like having people that believe in you, and like
That's
people just like were just so supportive of me. And then after that, it was just like, you know, I think I like flashed a 12A like in 2 weekends after that, and it
yeah.
was just, and then going to the gym and just starting to like put down all the 12
That's
minuses in
so
the gym.
awesome.
And then at that point, it's the end of 2019 and COVID hits.
Right.
Everything shuts down. Like people are not supposed to go outdoor climbing. So then I just started like just training, and
Yeah.
by now I've had 312As in the bag, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna train really hard. Like I put up this like plywood spray board underneath my parents' basement stairs, like, you know, like how basements are like
Yeah,
usually
totally.
unfinished. I'm like, well, this looks like a solid structure. So I bought like 2 pieces of plywood,
Sweet.
drilled some holes in them, like stuck some T-nuts, and just like drilled them underneath the staircase, found an old mattress, threw under there, and just like ran
Nice.
up and down it like for like 3 minutes, running up and down.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then I like got pretty strong, did a bunch of ab workouts, a lot of Zoom ab workouts. And then I got like kind of tired of just being inside. And I was like, well, I used to live in the Upper Peninsula, and like one of my best friends still lives up there, and like no one will notice if I just like dip out to the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
So me and my new boyfriend at the time, we go to the Upper Peninsula and we just stay with my friend, because I was like, okay, we haven't been in contact with anyone, probably won't spread COVID. We're just gonna hang out up there in his house. And then I go back to like my original climbing ground, Silver Mountain, and I just like send everything.
Yeah.
And that felt so good. Like sent everything like in a matter of a week. We go to like Palisade Head, which is beautiful trad climbing in Minnesota. I didn't send everything there. That's climbing is kind of scary, but we climbed there. It was really nice.
Yeah.
It was just like lots of good outdoor climbing, and until like gyms and the Red started reopening. I spent actually then I think it started becoming socially acceptable to climb in the Red. So I spent like all summer climbing in the Red.
Yeah.
You know, everything's closed down, everything's remote. And that's like, I think that was a huge change, was just like having everything closed down, everything be remote. Like it just gave me the opportunity to climb more. I just like climbed so much. And then I don't even know at this point what year it was. I think gyms reopened up, and then I would take me and my boyfriend during COVID, we built out a van. So then we like we realized like we could work remote a lot. Like I was my own boss. He was a grad student, and all his work was on the computer. So we would drive the van down to the Red, stay there for a couple of days at a time, like a week at a time, and climb and come back. But the thing about the Red is a lot of the roads are like dirt roads, hard to access the crags. So then we bought a house.
Oh yeah.
And then we realized like, well, I guess so we first rented a house with some friends down there. They were like, we had a couple of friends that were just as into climbing as us. Like I think at the time we were climbing like low 12s, mid 12s. And they were like, hey, I have some time off of, they're like med students. They're like, I have a month off. Why don't, like, you guys seem to be down at the Red a lot. Would you be interested in like splitting like a small townhouse in Stanton, which is like 30 minutes from the Red? And we're like, I don't know. And then we're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So then like living down there and being so close to the crags like showed us the possibility that you can just like, you know, you can work and then you could go to your projects. And like then I started putting down like, I think that season I put down like couple 12Cs and like good ones I never thought I would be able to.
That's
like Star Block
amazing.
6, which is like just crazy reachy, like
Yeah.
dynamic long, and like Stain, which is like really crimpy,
That's awesome.
bouldery route. Put those down, and I was like, you know what? Like, I think I can climb at 13. Like, if
Yeah.
I live down here. I mean, I
Right.
guess I probably would have been able to, like, even if I didn't live down there, but I was like, I really want to climb a 13. In order to climb a 13, I think I actually like have to do this again.
Right.
And then yeah, that's when we made our decision to like buy a house down there
That's so cool.
and like just focus more time on climbing, because like I always knew I wanted to focus more time on climbing, but I just like didn't know how that would look in my life.
Yeah.
And basically, like, I realized the answer is like, just do what you want.
I love that.
Like, figure out the logistics later. Like, go do what you want.
Yeah.
Like, life's too short. And
For sure.
you know, like, if you're trying to like pre-plan everything, you're not gonna do anything. So
Right.
So we bought a house, and then every day was just like, you know, work, go to your projects, get like a couple burns on your projects, go back home.
Sweet life. I love that.
Yeah, it's really like amazing. Climb until the weather conditions turn to crap. Okay, now we can like, whenever the conditions are bad, we generally like head back to Michigan, because that's like where my office is. And
Right.
Obviously I had to like get the company stable to a point where I could like dip out.
Yeah.
I'm like very lucky to have that opportunity, but obviously there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved to make that happen.
Right.
And there's still like, it's still like gets hard, but like I just prioritize climbing because that's what makes me happy. Like,
yeah, of course.
I like climbing because, again, like how I mentioned, like I feel like I have control over my climbing, and it's just always teaching me about things, like about what I can handle. Like, you know, I get on a project, it feels really hard, and then seeing that progression of being able to like make progress every time you hop on it. I guess not every time, but like relatively every time.
Yeah.
Like you see like some form of progress. It just teaches me that like if you work hard at something, you'll see progress. Like,
oh yeah, it's so metaphorical, like for life. You know, there's so many.
Yeah, literally. Like if I'm having a bad day and I'm letting my emotions take the best of me, I'm gonna have a bad time climbing. Right. But if I'm like, you know, come in with a positive attitude and like try as hard as I can, I generally have a better time.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. So I want to talk for a second about this post you made on Instagram that sort of inspired me to get a hold of you. I really like the way you worded it. I liked everything about it. So I'm wondering if you could read it to us from a couple of weeks ago at Red Rocks. I think it's at Red Rocks, right?
Yeah, that was.
So before you, as you're pulling them up, let me just say to anybody listening, like if you're not following Lucia in the Sky, I think 3 Ys on Instagram, you're missing out on like just some beautiful climbing photos and really kind of motivational posts that she makes. So I strongly recommend you look into her. So anyway, yeah, if you have it up, I'd love to hear like you read the words that you wrote.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try to read it well.
You're gonna do great.
So I mean, this kind of like encompasses a lot of what I talk about. You know, it was like when I was writing this, I was like, how do I write everything that brought me to this point in this one, I guess, post.
Yeah.
So it says, as I was getting prepared to walk out the door and leave my current opportunities filled with secure promises for the unknown, I looked back at my mentor, unsure if I was making the right decision. Without hesitation, she told me to turn around, be confident, and don't look back. And that's what I did. There are many things in life you can't control, but how you interact with those challenges will make the world of difference. Life is an adventure, so treat it like one. Do the things you want to do, even if they don't feel secure. Take in everything every day, and do the best you can do. Stay curious, open-minded, strong, and stubborn, back to the grind.
Yeah, that's so good. I love everything about that. So you made that post. So is that about another big change that you've
I think it's just like a whole encompass of like my entire life is a change. I mean, so the thing is, like, that decision, what that I talk about, stepping away from an engineering career that you were trained from, like, the moment that you were in middle school. Like, in middle school, you were told that you got to do good in middle school because your grades don't matter yet. So you can do well in high school, and you do so well, like, work really hard in high school so you can go to college, and then do really well in college so you can find a good job. And that's, like, they say, the recipe for success. So, like, your entire life you were told that you have to be perfect, like, you have to have a good career, like a career of an engineer. You know, engineers have obviously really secure, straightforward careers. Like, it's just this, I don't even know how to, like, you be a good engineer. And, you know, I went to this, like, really, like, it was like only an engineering school. It wasn't like a creative thinking school. It was like, this is your industry engineer. Like, you gotta do this. You gotta wear your engineering ring and, like, be true to engineering and the people around you, and, like, serve the corporations that you work for. And that's, like, how they define success. And to, like, you know, turn around and, like, step away from that, it took me, like, a long time to accept that that was the right decision. That, like, you worked literally your entire life to get to this point, and you're just, like, throwing it in the trash can right there, you know. And I will actually say I'm lucky enough that I did not have to make that decision on my own. Like, the universe forced me to make that decision.
It sure seems like it, right?
I don't know if I would be the same person if I stayed on that track. And just, like, I'm always reflecting back on, like, you know, would I have made that decision on my own? And, like, I do strongly encourage people just to, like, if they really want something, to make that decision, even if they feel like it's insecure. Because, like, when I was working a corporate job, I was trying to figure out how to do that job, but also accomplish everything I want to do. Like, I'm a traveler. I'm a nomad. Like, I don't like staying in one place. And to work like a corporate job, you have to do that. I was away from climbing. Like, there's not a lot of jobs around big climbing areas, like, unless you're like living in Salt Lake or, like, near Rifle or something. Like, you have to travel. And, like, the funny thing was, like, during this process, I would have, like, these friends that were very successful, and I'm, like, driving around in my van, you know, hitting up these climbing areas, and, like, they're like, wow, you've made it. I'm like, it's funny to say that, because, like, you've made it in the sense of what everyone tells you what making it is. Like, you have that 6-figure job, you know, you're a manager, you have a house, you have nice cars.
Right.
I'm like this dirt bag.
Just dirt bagging it out here.
I'm like, so if, like, you know, people are saying, like, to me, they're like, you know, from a engineering professional standpoint, from a corporate professional standpoint, they're like, you're who I want to be. I'm like, honestly, just quit your job and, like, go do what you want.
Right. It seems so simple, but it's so hard at the same time. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, like, quitting your job, letting go of security is the hardest thing. So, like, in some ways I got lucky that, like, I was so overstressed that I had to just, you know, like, I popped I was like,
Yeah.
goodbye, I'm throwing everything away, and I'm like moving forward with it. Like obviously you can't just like pop and melt and let the world like keep going without you. Like
For sure.
that's why like what you do makes the world a difference. Like you have to like pick that direction and freaking sprint and like
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, and like I guess I'm just like I'm constantly battling change. I'm like constantly every day I wake up. I'm also like, you know, like most people like love Steve Jobs quotes. Like he made a quote that's like, if you wake up 3 days in a row, like not happy with how your life is, make that change.
All right, Steve Jobs. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, obviously I like said it not as eloquently as
I'm sure it's
him.
better. Like again, the whole time you're talking, I'm just imagining what a climbing movie would be like. It's your life story, you know. And so like clearly your quotes are better than Steve Jobs in our version of your story.
Yeah. And it was funny because I was like actually just chatting with my ex, who I was like, you know, he was like, congrats on the third, like breaking into a new grade, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, like, okay, I'm going to try to get a 14 in a year. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is my plan to do this. I'm going to first climb like some more 13s. And then by next season, I want to like start projecting like CDs. And then by the next season, I'm going to climb 14A. And so he's just like, wow, super ambitious. Like, that's crazy. I was just like, but it's like, it's not that crazy because like you are clearly strong enough and that's also your goal, but you're just not like making that, you know, pushing for that.
Put it out there. Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You just have to have your eyes on the prize, I guess. Like just really question yourself, like, what do you want in life? Like I knew I always wanted to travel. Like I have family in China. I didn't want to like be bound down by a corporate job and never see them. Like I wanted to visit my grandparents. I wanted to visit my friends that were across the country. And I also wanted to be there for my family. Like you have to like list out everything that you want to do that like you don't really want to sacrifice, because it's like you have one life to live. Why would you sacrifice key things that are important to you? Like I love my family. Like I love my parents. I want to be there for them. If, you know, I found myself like thinking like, oh, like if I were to see someone else in my situation, I would have been like, go help your family. So if I would have been an outsider being like, go help your family, then that's what I should be doing, you know? So like, that's why I'm here. I'm like, I want to help my family because I love them. Like I want to spend as much time with them as I can on this earth. But at the same time, I also want to be close to climbing. And the only way to make that work is to like buy a house, because then I can like have a nest there and work and climb. And also I like want to see friends. So it's like I can't like, I had to find a really specific job if I want to like travel and climb and everything. So I just had to make what I was like given work. And so that's where I am.
That's amazing. Man, it's so amazing. So in all honesty, I do have a lot more questions about you, or not about you, for you, but they have to do with different things. So I'm hoping you wouldn't mind if I invited you back sometime in the future
definitely.
to cover a whole other series of questions. I mean, it really is fascinating. But before we end today's talk, I'm from Southeast Michigan as well. And so like I spent some time in the UP. And so I'm wondering if you could just explain to people who are not from Michigan or haven't spent time in the UP about these things that are very popular in the UP. I've never actually tried one. I think they're called pasties, but they might be called pasties. So how do you pronounce it and what is it?
Definitely not a pasty. Don't say that unless you want to get laughed at and possibly slapped. Pasties are awesome. I love them. They're basically like a handheld meat pie. I was thinking chicken pot pie. I mean, you could get like chicken pot pie ones, but they're traditionally like meat and potatoes. And it's really interesting if you think back about it. You know, I'm an environmentalist, so I like to like see the, you know, where things come from and how things were back in the day. But you know, places like the Upper Peninsula, it's winter again, 99 months out of the year. So they survive on stuff like roots and meats, and that's actually more sustainable for them to survive on than like fresh vegetarian food. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically your meat with your roots. Like there's this one root in it that's not potatoes. I'm not sure what it is, but like a radish or something.
Yeah, I think, is it a rutabaga? Is that
something? Yeah. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
I don't know
So
what a
that's what they
rutabaga tastes like.
traditionally are. I like eating mine with ketchup, but a lot of people made fun of me for eating it with ketchup. If you ever go to Houghton, which is where Michigan Tech is, there's a really good pasty place called Roy's. I think it's just called Roy's.
That's a great name.
It's awesome. It has like, you have like your Thanksgiving flavored pasties with like turkey and cranberries.
Cool. That's really cool.
And then your roots, and then there's like the chicken broccoli ones. Though I don't think those are like the traditional ones, but
yeah,
really good.
Usually, I think you're right. Again, I've never tried one. It's like beef or I mean, maybe deer. I don't know. There's like a meat, some root stuff.
Yeah. But the Upper Peninsula is so amazing. It's a different world.
I agree. So one of the things, when people are like, oh, what's the most beautiful place that you've been to or traveled? Like, first of all, it's hard to pick, but I would never leave that out of the conversation. It's beautiful up there. I mean, the rocks, and the trees, the water, it's unbelievable.
The only thing I will say is be careful when you go, because like roads to places like Silver Mountain don't get plowed because they're dirt roads. So like there's a lot of snow up there. I think it might start being accessible starting like June, but there's so much snow up there that it takes so long to melt.
That's a great point. All right, so don't all rush up there at once. Wait till like July. Go get a pasty. Yeah, for sure.
Also, bug nets.
Yeah,
wear bug nets on your head. Seriously.
Right. What about like those black biting flies up there?
They're terrible. Like
they're the worst.
Yeah. One summer I was doing research up there, and I was actually wearing a head net. It actually was contrary to what I just said, wear a head net, but I was doing a multi-pitch. There's like 2 multi-pitches at Silver Mountain. That's where I learned how to multi-pitch. And as we were like getting ready to like rappel down, all the little black, I think they're like gnats or like noseums. They like flew into my head net, and they were attacking my neck. And like they couldn't get out of my head net either.
Oh my God.
So the next day I had like all these dots all over my neck, and like my grad student advisor was like, or what, I wasn't grad. The grad student that was advising me was like, "Are you okay?" Because it looked like I had chicken pox.
Make me itch right now.
Yeah. So wear a lot of bug spray or layers if you don't like bug spray, or both, because the bugs are terrible up there.
Good. That's solid advice. So before we go, is there anything that like you want to plug or promote or put a spotlight on or anything like that?
I guess just like you mentioned, check out my Instagram content. Most of the stuff I put out there is somehow linked on my Instagram. So my Instagram is Lucia in the Sky with 3 Y's. My name's spelled Lucia, and I love posting photos. I have a lot of great photographer friends, so they help me out with my photos. So
it's really nice.
All of you photographers out there. And I'm just having fun. Oh yeah, I'm also making a YouTube channel. So subscribe to that. I think I'm at like 21 subscribers.
All right.
I'm slowly chugging along, but
I'm gonna find you.
Me and my climbing partners were it's called Beta Addicts, like BETA Addicts. And we post videos of climbs at the Red. And I might be adding more stuff on there, like training, because I've been asked a lot about how I train, which I'm not a contrary to what it sounds like. I'm actually not an extremely disciplined person. I'm just a very stubborn person, but I'm trying to get more into training.
Yeah, share it all. I mean, if we can take your trajectory, I feel like that would be a dream. So I just want to thank you. I look forward to talking to you again. If I'm ever out at the Red, I'm gonna send a message.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm at the
Lucia,
Red. Yeah.
thanks a million.
Thank you.